Don't know how to use a semi-automatic pistol? Not to worry, I'm here to help. My name is David Avalon. I'm the owner of the Nevada Shooters Club, and today we're just going to cover some basics of how to use a semi-automatic pistol. From loading the magazine, loading the gun, racking the slide, and unloading the gun. All right, so let's go ahead, look at the gun we'll be using today, which is going to be a trusty Beretta 92FS. This gun is currently unloaded, no round in the chamber, magazine's empty, and I have two empty magazines here. I do, for demonstration purposes, have some dummy rounds and snap caps, okay, but again, these are plastic rounds, they're not live. So, without further ado, first thing, whenever we're going to be using a gun, we want to follow the three basic safety rules. 1, always keep the gun pointed in the safe direction. 2, always keep your finger off the trigger until ready to shoot. And 3, always keep the gun unloaded until ready to use. So we'll be following all those rules today. Now, with a semi-automatic, the first thing that we want to do is be able to load the magazine. So, very simply, I'll demonstrate first. I can do it just like this, all right? Where all I'm going to do, okay, with my support hand, I'm going to hold the magazine. My support thumb will help push down on the top cartridge here, all right? And my dominant hand, I'm right-handed, so my right hand is going to use the rim of that cartridge to help push down, and then I'm going to slide the round forward, okay? You might not be able to see this, but the magazine tube at the very top here has a little hook. So once I get the rim of the round to seat there, it allows it to flow into place. Of course, there's one way to put rounds in, okay, which is going to be the bullet end of the cartridge. It's going to be facing towards the slant in the magazine. I wouldn't want to try to put it in this way, all right? You could theoretically, but you should notice that this is going to look very wrong, all right? It's also not going to function properly if you do so, all right? Now, if you wanted a smoother time, you could use something like a speed loader here, which allows me then to simply go through much faster. And I have a whole video just covering loading magazines, so we won't go any further into that. Now, we'll get into loading the magazine into the gun, okay? So at this point now, my gun is unloaded, okay? We'll say to drop the slide here. I'm simply gonna push the magazine in and give it a nice tap, okay? The one thing I don't wanna do here is be gentle and go very slow like this. This looks like the magazine's in, but it isn't, okay? It's just a little bit off. And if you listen quietly here, that little click lets you know now the magazine has seated properly, okay? So, in order to avoid any type of confusion, just always get in there, give it a nice tap, so that you know that the magazine is firmly seated in place. At this point, the gun isn't loaded yet, because we haven't racked around to the chamber. And that's gonna happen by operating the slide. And to operate the slide, all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grip like so on the top of the slide, and then I'm going to use my dominant side to push the gun forward and then release the slide. Just like that. At this point, the gun is loaded. There's a round in the chamber here. Okay, and again, to demonstrate that one more time, you should see, because there was a round in the chamber, when I rack the slide, it also ejects. And now when I drop it again, it's going to feed another round. Now, one mistake that people do sometimes is that they try to ride the slide, meaning that they rack the slide and then they kind of go slowly forward like this, okay, which is not good. It can cause all sorts of malfunctions here, okay? So let it drop. Now, the safety is currently on here, okay, so for this gun that has a safety, and the safety is on the slide. If I try to pull the trigger right now, you'll notice nothing happens here. The hammer is not moving at all right, and there's no resistance. Once I put the safety off, now you can see the hammer is cocking back, and now it's going forward, all right? With this particular gun, the safety is also a decocker. And because this gun has an external hammer, just like with the revolver, I could cock this hammer back and then I can shoot it. With this gun, if I cock the hammer back and I needed to decock it, I would just simply operate the safety. It's on both sides, so I'm seeing my side. Okay, right here, I could just push this and that's gonna decock the gun. It sounds like it went off, but it doesn't. Okay. Now, the other thing, okay, well, once we have the gun loaded, we have a round in the chamber, we're ready to fire, we assume we're shooting grip, okay? With a semi-automatic pistol, you're gonna see that there's this hook on the back end of the grip panel. It's often called the beaver tail. You wanna get the webbing of your thumb to go all the way in there, okay? And then get a nice, good grip on the gun, getting as much hand as you can, okay? On the other side, I want to have my thumbs essentially lined up along the slide here, and you can see my support hand is going to go over the top of my other hand, and both my thumbs go along the slide here. Again, if I turn the other way, my index finger is not inside the trigger guard, which would be in here because I'm not ready to shoot yet, right? So when I just grab the gun, I'd be here. Once I have sights, I'm ready to shoot, then I can come in here, and then I can pull my trigger and shoot. Okay. Again, you don't want your hands touching the slide because remember that slide's going to move back and forth every time you shoot. Right now, since I don't have any live rounds, when I pull the trigger, nothing's happening. If this was shooting live rounds, every time I pull this trigger, what's going to happen is this slide is automatically going to rack. It's going to go back and forward. Remember, when that slide is operating, essentially it's doing a few actions at once. Okay, one, it's going to extract the round from the chamber, eject it, and it's also going to cock the hammer. And if there's another round in the magazine, it's going to feed that magazine in. So every time you pull a trigger, that's all happening automatically. Okay, go back here. Now, so I'm firing. Let's say we already covered this, but if I could operate this gun in single action mode. That's now available to all semi-automatics, but to this one, since it does have an external hammer, I could use my support hand to cock the hammer back, and that's going to allow, again, if you watch the trigger here, when I manually cock the hammer, it goes back like a good ½ inch, and now the trigger pull is very, very light. This gun in particular, every time you fire, is going to default to single action mode, where it's going to only drop the trigger. It only draws a hammer, rather. It doesn't have to cock the hammer back and then drop it. So it makes for a much smoother shooting experience. Okay, so finally, how to unload the gun safely. All right, at this point, I'm done shooting. I would simply press the magazine release button. It's going to drop the magazine. All right, now there could still be a round in the chamber if I didn't empty the magazine. And I could tell there's a round still in this magazine. So this gun's still not safe. All right. Once I have to rack this slide, you're going to see there's this little button here. And if you can hear that, that little button is the slide stop. And the way I'm going to operate it is with my dominant hand. I'm just going to press up on it as I rack the slide, okay? And once I drop the slide, this slide stop catches the slide, so it holds it open. You guys also might have saw that we had a round ejected here, okay? So all because you take the magazine out of the gun does not mean the gun's safe. There could very well still be a round in the chamber, and you want to make sure that you rack that slide, leave it open so you can verify that the chamber is empty here. At this point, since this gun has a safety, it's also a good idea just turn the safety on. All right. Again, the safeties are normally color coded, where if you see red, that means the safety is off. Okay, the acronym red is dead. Right. When you don't see the red, normally that means the gun is safe. Again, it depends. I won't say for every gun because there might be one gun out there that follows a different standard. But for most guns, That's how they operate. That's why you should always read your gun's manual to make sure you fully understand how your gun operates. Also, in regards to safeties, don't rely on a safety to keep you safe. All right, all because the safety is on does not mean that the gun will not shoot. Safeties are a mechanical device and they can fail. And I've seen guns where the safety does not, the safety can be on and you can still shoot. All right, so that's why despite all the different safeguards that we have, we always keep the gun pointed in a safe direction. We don't have the gun loaded when we're not going to be ready to shoot. We don't put our finger in the trigger. We're not going to, if we're all not ready to shoot as well. Okay, always following our safety precautions. All right. With that said, this is generally how you would want to see your gun once you're done shooting. Slides open. You can visually inspect the chamber and the mag well is empty. I can put the gun down. My magazines are empty. I know that everything's hunky-dory and I can call it a day. All right, so that is the basics of operating a semi-automatic pistol. I hope this was helpful for you. If so, please like and share with a friend. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, go ahead and write them below and I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks again.